All right, I'm gonna have to clip that all together because my phone just timed out on me. I just got a new the Google Pixel 9a. Um, Really nice phone, but I'm like, if I'm actively using the camera, why is it timing out? Like, I'm on the thing, right? Okay, so I was thinking maybe I didn't have that much memory, but it's like I just got this phone. There's no way I put that much memory on it. All right, back to me. So, anyways, grew up like close to Spokane, right? Um, like 20 miles out of Spokane. As a kid, I was always getting into trouble. Okay, so like fourth grade, me and this other girl, her name was Angela. Everybody called me Angel, so it was the two Angels. We decided to skip school in the fourth grade, go across the street where this lady had a stable of horses, and we decided to ride her horses bareback without her permission. Needless to say, I got suspended. And then, when I reached high school, I was kicked out of every single high school for fighting, right? And even kicked out of the alternative schools for fighting. I guess it was just because like people thought, oh, she's small, I can pick on her, But yeah, no, you can't, because I will definitely be sticking up for myself. Okay, so let me do the broad strokes, because that's the main reason why I came on here, because it's important, okay? Okay, so my mom, she married this guy that was in the Navy. I think he was, he got like discharged, he was on disability, he was getting that check, right? Well, this man who I called my dad because I never knew my biological father. He was married to my mom, but they got divorced, and I just never met him. I still haven't met him, but my twin brother has. He actually lived with him for like a hot minute. So this man ended up sexually abusing me and my sister, right? He was only prosecuted for me. I never told on him. It was actually this guy that I was seeing when I was like 14 or 15. My stepdad like wanted me to come home, and I was like, no, I'm not coming home. So he ended up like smacking me around in front of the whole neighborhood, and was, grabbing me by the hair and pulling me down the street by my hair. He ended up giving me a black eye. Well, when the cops arrived, the guy that I was seeing told the police and subsequently the detectives what I had told him regarding my stepfather. So he was convicted. I went to foster care, and then my mom eventually moved me into felony flats, which is flat, one-bedroom apartment. They're called felony flats because it was like not in a good neighborhood in Spokane, right? So fast forward 16, 17, I get pregnant by a different guy I was seeing, and we got married before I gave birth. He joined the military so that he could provide, for me and our baby. Our first duty station was in Italy, so we all moved to Italy. I flew back to the States to have my second kid. I only have two. I had my two, and I was done. Nickel between the knees, so to speak. So anyways, all right, so me and my ex-husband, we were having problems, right? I was drinking, we would get into fights, the cops would be called, Same old story, old as time, right? So I ended up going to AA, and I actually went to AA off and on for about 17 years, quite a while. But while I was in those rooms, I met people, and those people introduced me to harder drugs. And like looking back, I'm like, damn, I wish I had never gone there. Because if I hadn't gone there, I wouldn't have met those people, right? Like ended up in crack houses, didn't even know what heroin looked like, or, never done it, never saw it. But one of my really good friends, he overdosed. I called 911. Still to this day, when he tells his story at AA meetings, like a lot of people don't go to NA because it's like an offshoot of AA. Like AA is like the OG, right? The OG support group. So even though like drugs was like his, drug of choice, like heroin and crack, he still preferred AA. But anyways, when he tells his story, he always includes me in it, She was my angel. She saved me that day. And he's been clean ever since, which I'm really proud of him. If you're ever watching this, you know who you are, DC. I'm just going to take a little break right here because I think this light's going to turn. I'm not going to be able to cross. So anyways, so while I'm attending these meetings, I meet this girl. She's like, hey, I'm thinking about going into the emergency medical services for emergency medical technician. Do you want to do it with me? And I was like, what's that? And she's like, the ambulance. I mean, I was really stupid. Sometimes I still am. I am self-aware. I can admit that. I only wish that I had the knowledge that I do now when I was in my 20s. But anyways, so we both go into the program together. She got pregnant. She didn't complete it. I did. All right. So I had a career in EMS for about 10 years. I've worked in hospitals, on the ambulance, dispatch centers, and one time even a midwifery, which was interesting. So in 2012, I had actually gotten a DUI, but I knew my arresting officer's sergeant. So he dropped it down to like no BAC, so like no alcohol involved. And, the judge was like, oh, you're an EMT. We're not going to make you do any community service. Like, that's community service enough, your job. So, I think my license was like suspended for 3 months or something. So like my partner would come in the ambulance, come pick me up. And, we would just, start our day, 12 hours. But I learned a lot in EMS, and that was the best career I ever had, right? Needless to say, even though like I was going in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous, when I was, running and gunning, I was out drinking. There's a lot of drinking in EMS. You're not allowed to do anything else. So drinking is the way to go, I guess, because you can't do drugs. You might get drug tested if you drop a patient, if you get into a car accident, even if it's not your fault, you like mandatory drug tests. So drinking is like the only thing you could do, right? So I was drinking. Needless to say, I racked up more charges in 2015, and I'm talking like 12 charges, and I think 8 of them were felony. So from that incident, I still have asphalt in my face. And they did print an article in the newspaper regarding the incident. However, what they printed is not factual. It is not true. Like the mugshot that they used. Wow, did y'all hear that? I don't know what that was. The mugshot that they use isn't even like the right one, which is like really sad to say. Like, oh, you have more than one? I sure do. Not that I'm proud of it, but so they didn't use the right mugshot because the mugshot they should have used, my whole left side of my face looked like I had been drugged through the asphalt. Just on the left side, I had a black eye. You can still see some asphalt in my forehead. I'm lucky to have my fronts, to be honest. And I didn't even go to jail. Like, I went to the hospital. I was on a ventilator for 2 days, and then I went to jail. But if they had used that mugshot, the public would have been asking, like, yo, what happened to her? Like, okay, so no one else was hurt but this chick? So I think that's the reason why they didn't want to use it, because they didn't want anybody, like, questioning, like, what was the real story here? Because why is her face all messed up? And I do have a picture of it, but it's, like, in my Apple account. And I don't know if I can get it, but I do want to contact the Montgomery County jail to see if I can get, like, the picture, because it's just good to have it. And, you know, like, talking and uploading videos, you know, it helps me just get shit out. But anyways, so they offered me diversion, so I did a behavioral health court, which basically you're like doing counseling, you're taking meds, you're peeing in a cup, you're doing a breathalyzer, you're, you know, going to meeting. You have to do like a shit ton of stuff. So I think I finished that in like 14 or 18 months, something like that, right? I let my EMS license go. It wasn't taken from me. I just decided, like, okay, after that arrest and after they published this article about me, like, I don't feel like I'm gonna have, you know, like, the jobs are slim, right? So, and they are. I've known a few other EMTs that did get in trouble. Like, one guy stole an ambulance, and by stealing, I mean he was supposed to bring it back to base and he didn't. So, like, the dispatchers contacted the police, and the police were like chasing this ambulance around through different counties. And, you know, but they didn't publish anything about him. Oh, no, actually, no, wait, I retract that. I think he was on the news, like, live. Like, he made the actual, like, news, but not like an article where you can, like, pull it back up. So, you know, all of that aside, you know, I had a lot to deal with, you know, PTSD, dealing with, you know, my past and abusive relationships and kids, and it was a lot, you know. So actually during that time, I was living in Philadelphia, like the suburbs of Philly, right? He's my ex-husband now. I've only been married once, but his mom met someone, a registered nurse, that lived in Philadelphia. So she moved from Washington, because we're all from Washington. All of my kids were born in Washington, and we all moved to Pennsylvania. Now, I call Philadelphia my home. Like, that is where I evolved, you know, that's where my kids were raised, and I just, like, that's my home, right? Right now, I'm back in Washington, and I don't like it. I really don't. I don't know if it's because there's just been, like, so much hurt and trauma that's happened here, you know, like, in my childhood, you know, those formative years. But so yeah, so we all moved to Pennsylvania with his mom, right? All right, so fast forward, I decide, all right, I need to get into a different trade, a different career. So I went into cosmetology school. Sorry, I'm like totally losing my train of thought here. Probably because I'm walking, sun's in my eyes, and I can't see my screen. But anyway, so I do the cosmetology program. I get licensed. And, you know, I've been doing that, right, along with other jobs. I mean, I've been an office manager, metal fabricator, assembler. You want to know what's funny? So when I got these charges, I went and got a job at this place called Havis, and they actually make the docking systems for where the police and EMS dock their laptops or tough books for, in the vehicles. So like we had contracts with like CHP, California Highway Patrol, and a bunch of the different townships, in and around Philadelphia and like other states as well. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm on the other side. Like I used to use this, now I'm making them. But so yeah, like just so much shit has happened. I can't even like comprehend, right? So I'm gonna stop this here because I'm gonna cross the street, and I will pick it back up and then just clip everything together when I can.